Shikha Dalmia is a journalist and senior policy analyst at the Free Market Reason Foundation and has written a lot about America's immigration system lately and the way it is already being enforced. She spoke to us recently from Detroit.
President Trump, to some extent, created this problem when he scrapped DACA, which was this temporary, legal status that had been handed to Dreamers, and Dreamers are people who were brought to this country without their wishes to, when they were minors. And they've grown up as Americans. They've lived in this country all their life. They have no contact with their home country. And there's very, very wide consensus among Republicans and Democrats, the left and the right, that, the sins of the parents should not be visited on the children. And so these people, these people deserve, some kind of legal status. And President Trump understands that too. The problem is in exchange for giving these people legal status, he wants to cut legal immigration by 40%, in addition to erecting, a wall and enhancing border security.
Shikha, whenever we talk about immigration reform, either illegal immigration or legal immigration, there's always a lot of talk of enforcement. And you've written a bit about this, and I'm just wondering, what does enforcement mean when they talk about it in reform?
So there are two issues that President Trump and, hard right restrictionists bring up when they talk about immigration. Many of them say that we are not opposed to legal immigration, we are only opposed to illegal immigration. And it has turned out not to be true, because the bill that this president has been pushing is one that would cut legal immigration by 40%. And when it comes to illegal immigration, they want two things. They want to control the border, which is, not let more people come in illegally. And they also want to hunt down and deport people who are in the country illegally. And that's, apart from the Dreamers, which are about 1.5 million of the population, there are another 10 million or so people who are here, without proper authorization. So what you will need is an all-out police state, in a sense, if you really get serious about these efforts. And we are seeing that actually happening under President Trump, quite rapidly.
Shikha, of course, the statistics tell a kind of complicated picture, because last year deportations did go up from 2016 under Obama in the first year of the Trump administration, but that was only around about half of the deportations from the first year of the Obama administration in 2009. So it's not as though this is particularly an escalating issue, and even at those current rates of about 200,000 a year, that's 50, 60 years before all 11 million would mathematically be deported. So is it really that big of a deal?
Congress has authorized funds for about 400 to 450,000 deportations every year. And what President Obama was trying to do was use those funds to go after people who are actually, criminal aliens who were engaged in violent crimes or in serious crimes. But he had this policy of going after them and then leaving and deprioritizing and leaving the other, the peaceful immigrants who have deep ties to the community, who have, American family members alone. This president came and turned that on its head. Now, you have to remember that, there aren't that many criminal aliens left to be deported, because President Obama took care of that. So for that reason, the deportations under Trump are not what they were at the peak of Obama, but they are still much more than they were. And he has now given up on the idea of prioritizing the criminal aliens, and he is literally going after everybody.
Talking about deporting everybody, something else you've written about is that actual citizens somehow get deported sometimes. I think the number you threw around was 4,000 American citizens were either deported or detained as aliens in 2010, and that's something like 1% at any one time of the people in detention for being illegal immigrants are actually citizens. How does that physically happen?
Anytime anybody, gets in the crosshairs of the immigration system, if they can't affirmatively prove that they are American citizens, they are deported. And often what happens is, and these are, of course, people, who are poor, who don't know their rights. Many of them are Hispanics. They don't even know that if you're born in this country, then you are automatically a citizen of this country. And when they are interrogated and when they are put in detention, which are, theoretically, in principle, they are not prisons, but they are for all practical purposes. You can't communicate with your family. You don't have a lawyer present. You don't know what your rights are, and you are just dying to get out of there. A lot of them actually sign their own deportation papers and give up their right, to stay in the country. And they are deported. And if Trump gets what he wants, which is even more aggressive and expedited removal, this is going to affect more and more U.S. citizens.
You've also written about what you refer to as a 100-mile Constitution-free zone, which I find interesting because you're talking about 100 miles from the border. At any one point, there are apparently a different legal regime for the immigration police if you're within 100 miles of the border compared to if you're not. Now, most of America would be within 100 miles of some kind of border, either a coast or a border of some kind. So how does that legally work?
2/3 of American population lives within the 100-mile zone of the border. And the Supreme Court here has ruled that space is okay for Border Patrol to search people in that space as if they were entering a port of entry. So, when you come from a foreign country into any country, you have to show your papers, you have to go through an immigration check, and what have you. You have to go through customs. And the Supreme Court has ruled that Border Patrol and customs have the same powers in that 100-mile zone. So with the result that they can, all of Michigan, which is where I live, is in the 100-mile zone. Most of New York is in 100-mile zone. That means that if I am traveling on a Greyhound bus in Michigan, theoretically, any agent can stop that bus and ask everybody in that bus to produce their papers and prove, that they are in the country legally. Now, in principle, they can't ask you any more than, are you an American citizen, and show me your papers. And if you tell them you're an American citizen, they are supposed to let you go. But it doesn't always work out like that in practice.